Hey, party people. Well, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. Party people, it is one of my favorite days of the year. Today, the day we're releasing this podcast, March 26, 2026, it is opening day for my beloved Philadelphia Phillies. And to celebrate all things baseball, we have a very special baseball sports-loving episode for you today. I'm sitting down with Ellen Adair for a game of In This World. Ellen is an actor, a writer, a visual artist, a baseball analyst. You can catch them right now in the Housemaid with Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried. You can also catch them on the Take Me Into the Ballgame podcast, where they review baseball movies and shows on the 2080 scale. And Ellen and I, both being baseball fans and Phillies fans, we're excited to dig into the world of sport and what sport means to us as people in a world-building game of In This World by Ben Robbins. In This World is a fast game of big creativity. It is designed for you to quickly spin up world after world of what-if scenarios made by challenging the core assumptions of the world that we live in. It is a wonderful way to talk about the concepts in the world you find interesting or frustrating or challenging or fascinating and flip those things on their head to wonder, what if this was different? It's an incredibly beautiful game. I had such fun playing with it. I can't wait for you to hear the episode. You can find more information about the game, as well as everything that Ellen has going on in the show notes. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I'm really excited today. I'm sitting down with Ellen Adair. Ellen, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Oh my goodness, my pleasure.
I'm thrilled. This is going to be a wonderful recording. I've got the game in front of me. I think it's going to be an absolute blast. But before we get into the game that we're playing today, why don't you take a moment, let our lovely listeners at home know about what you got going on that you want them to know about.
Sure. So the next thing that a person can see my face in is The Housemaid, which is a movie that I believe is coming out in December with Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried. And you can see my hand in the trailer. Very exciting. And the other thing that I have had going on recently is I have a few different films that I co-wrote that have been on the festival circuit. So one of them is a horror comedy called Damned If You Do. It's a dark comedy with some horror elements is perhaps how to more accurately describe it. But there are a lot of folks from the horror and horror comedy world in it. Kate Siegel and of the sort of Mike Flanagan-iverse and Harvey Gann of What We Do in the Shadows are a couple of the leads. We also have Ginger Gonzaga, Paula Costanzo, and Beth Dover in the other lead parts, and other amazing actors like Ed Weeks and Molly Bernard in the ensemble. It's really an incredible cast of people that we were able to get for our movie. It's pretty surreal. So that recently played at Screamfest in LA and at Film Quest in Provo, Utah, and where the film was nominated for a bunch of awards, including Best Screenplay, and won for Best Ensemble, which was very exciting.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thanks. So there's not a place for folks to watch it yet, but there is an Instagram account, Damned If You Do movie. If you are interested in this and you just want updates on like, when can we finally see the film? And so yeah, you can follow that Instagram account. And then the other film, very different vibes, is called Coming Out Polyamorous for Thanksgiving, which is adapted from Alex Alberto's book Entwined. So Alex was just looking for somebody to help them adapt part of their memoir into a film. And I was like, I would love to do that. So I am in that one. That film hilariously also won Best Ensemble at the Chain Film Festival in New York City. So I actually feel good about having written a couple of movies that like give a lot of different people opportunities to shine. And that movie is going to be available to watch, I believe, as of this Thanksgiving. So yes, if you're curious to watch that film, it will be online very soon.
That's so exciting. That's wonderful. And like, it is, I mean, as somebody that, has produced works, has judged works, like there is something really powerful and magical to, there is a distinct a distinct needle to thread when it comes to, or that's the phrase, right? We got that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a distinct needle to thread when it comes to,
Sewing
there's a
analogies.
lot of people, like giving a lot of people that spotlight and making sure, and like that's so exciting to hear. And to hear that it happened twice in such a short time frame really does kick ass.
Thanks. Yeah. So my husband and I, Eric Gildy, wrote the feature Damned If You Do together. And it was something that we were really mindful of, that we wanted, even if a character only had a couple of lines, for there still to be something really fun for that actor to do. Right. Because I think we as actors have all had parts where we're pure functionaries and we
Sure.
just exist to like serve somebody else's story. And that's part of the job and that's fine. But that it's definitely more fun. And I think the vibe on set was everybody was really excited to be there because everybody felt like there was something that they could sink their teeth into.
And I think like that energy comes across on screen when it feels like you're not just delivering a line for the sake of this needed a spot on the page, but, and also I think like, personally, I think like it adds an element of realism to a story because like, everybody does have their own weird little thing going on. It's everybody, and being able to see all of that on screen just like makes it feel that much more alive and vibrant, in part because you can tell everybody's having fun with it.
Yeah, and I think that in some ways, I'm not going to get more into it because that might sort of become a spoiler, but I think that's actually a sort of a thematic element of the film as well, interestingly.
So we've got a great game in front of us today that we are going to play. This is In This World, a small game of big ideas by Ben Robbins. In This World. This is a game about imagining the worlds that could be. The intro text: nations have borders, police carry badges, dragons breathe fire, you work for money. That's the world we expect. But what if some of those things were different? We're going to make and explore a world together, and in this world, we can question things, imagine alternatives, and instead of making just one world, we're going to make several. So don't worry that what we create is not what you want. You'll have more opportunities to create other possibilities later. Now, you gave me a lot of great information to go off of when I was like digging into games. Talk to me about what it is about like alternate universes and parallel worlds and like what if possibilities that's really been like on your mind lately.
Oh, I think it's been on my mind for my entire life. I almost couldn't quite tell you why it feels so always so like juicy to me, the idea of parallel realities. I'm reading a friend's script right now that also deals with parallel realities, and I'm just like, oh yes, heck yes. And I think some of it is, if I can just go ahead and start to get really, really weird immediately in your podcast.
I would ask for nothing less.
I'm truly a weird human being. And I identify the reason that I feel like I need to be an actor and a writer, or actor or a writer, because I feel homesick for the parts of myself that I don't get to be, but that I think I still am. Or perhaps it's the parts of myself, if you want to sort of go in a past lives direction with this, that I like slightly remember but don't quite remember. I think that we all have some latent sense of the infinity that we were once part of before we decided to come back to this earth and be like, okay, I'm going to give it another try and see what I learn this time. And so I think that that's why the idea of like some other reality that's like living alongside ours is so incredibly potent to us. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes that can take the idea as like there's a magical realm like living right alongside ours, and sometimes that's like, oh well, actually there's multiple timelines. Mm-hmm. But I think anything, and when I was sort of emailing you about this before we were so lucky as to get to talk face to face through our computers, anything that's like parallel realities, I'm immediately just like more interested in, right? So Severance is not like, ooh, it's magical, but like it is actually a parallel reality thing.
Sure, totally.
The notion that there's some other this version of ourselves that's like just beyond the like film frame of the edges of what we can see, right? But we feel that, like we feel all of that infinity. I think I feel it very acutely, and I don't think that I'm the only person for whom that is the case, but I just feel aware of it every day of my life.
I love this. I love this. And to your point at the start of that statement, if that's getting weird, I would like to stay at that level of weird for the next hour, because that shit is magical.
Okay, great.
Let me ask you this. Like, what is you mentioned Severance. What other like recent like alt reality, alt timeline, alt world possibility, media or stories or what have you? What else has been like on your mind lately as we kind of start to like approach text, and there's a process to us building these fantasy worlds, but like what else has been on your mind lately?
Well, some of these things, okay, so I have a really terrible memory. And for
Sure.
a long time, I just thought it was because I was morally weak. And then I learned that it was because I had been taking a very like horse-powered level allergy medication for like 30 years of my life, linked to very severe memory loss. So anyway, I remember that I loved things. And yet if I'm responsible to tell you specifically what happened in them, I'm not going to be able to remember.
Sure.
But I do know, like, I loved the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like when I watched it, I was like, oh, I am, and I can think many things are excellent without being like really disappointed that I didn't write it. But I was like, I'm so disappointed that I didn't write this. And I also felt that way about, there was a TV series called Maniac that I just like loved. And this was, I don't know, some might even be like pre-pandemic at this point. It was a long time ago. I haven't seen the second season of Loki, but the first season of Loki, I was like,
Sure.
yes, this is my favorite Marvel thing I've ever seen, because they're like finally fucking with the main thing that I want to fuck with. I felt that way about Russian Doll.
Sure.
And like, so one of my favorite novels, I am also, though I have nothing published yet, I am also a novelist, and one of my favorite novels of all time is David Mitchell's Cloud Atlas, which I think very much is like the sort of parallel realities, even though they're kind of moving forward in time, and he's doing, I mean, the movie is trash, but like the book is, I think, a 21st century masterpiece. And another one of my 21st century masterpieces is Kate Atkinson's Life After Life, which is basically about a woman who keeps restarting her life
Sure.
from the same point, and just kind of, she doesn't really remember, but she's slightly porous somehow to what's happened before. Like she's kind of like, oh, I have the sense that I should do this now, but I don't know why. Anyway, it's one of my favorite books. So I don't know that those are things that have been specifically on my mind, except for insofar as like, the two novels that I'm working on right now are also
Sure.
kind of parallel realities. Yeah.
Fantastic.
You're perfect.
We're going to sit down and we're going to build a world. And the way that that's going to work is, we are going to pick a topic that we want to explore. This is like the center of the game. This is a big picture topic that we are going to examine how the world changes, often to an unrecognizable state, if we tweak the minor details and truths of that world. Examples of that, if you open the game book and go to page 9, there are examples, and it's things like art, holidays, education, religion, sports, war, shopping. Is there a big picture topic that you are interested in like dissecting and staring at and like imagining what happens to the world if we futz with this one sort of overarching topic?
I mean, there's
we can
a
also
million.
randomly choose some things if that's exciting.
Yeah, I will say that, like, I think two of the most interesting things in the world to me are art and religion. So I'd already thought of those. They feel very, very large. Clothing also strikes me as interesting and like maybe a little bit more manageable, I had also thought about sports.
Sports is always on my brain is the thing. Like I will it's maybe the most Jeff answer on the list, and maybe the most predictable answer. Like it is right there. Sports, clothing, art are the ones that like I'm like floating towards, and like sometimes we have to recognize that when we are not just on our bullshit but we are fully indulging in our bullshit, and those are the ones that like I am circling around.
I mean, I feel like you responded so strongly to sports that
I
I'm here for that.
let's look at the world. Let's look at the world of sports and how sports changes. What changes in the world when we change elements of sports? So we've got our topic. This is the thing that we are going to be like dancing around. This is the thing that we are going to be examining. What are the elements of this? Like the subtopics. If your topic is cities, elements include roads, buildings, neighborhoods, utilities, houses, mass transit, people. What are the subtopics here that what are the component pieces that excite you about sports as a concept? The thing I'm going to put on the board immediately is when competition is too broad, and I'm trying to like find the like almost like
Tribalism.
tribalism is very good. I was going to throw in like um I'm gonna put down myth making.
Sure.
Myth making feels very like it's the ability, there is this inherentness to sport of we are built like it is individual events that naturally become a narrative. Like there's something about
Sure.
that is fascinating to me when I look at sports, the way that we engage in sports, and it's not just one game, it is the story of a game and a player and a team and a place all kind of at the same time.
Well, the very first thing that I was thinking, and I was like, is this just too esoteric to be helpful? Is that sports is a narrative that we cannot predict, right? So we go to fiction often because we have some kind of a sense of like, we know what the ending is probably going to be, even if it's like, it's going to be a good ending or it's going to be a bad ending.
Mhm.
We kind of have a sense of what the narrative building blocks are going to be, and we can predict. And as a matter of fact, it is like sometimes helpful for us of just being like, it's okay. I know I'm in a movie right now where like the ending is not going to be terrible, right? It's the latter half of act 2 and
Mhm.
everything's going wrong on
Yeah.
purpose in order for there to be a resolution in act 3. And like, I know that's what's going to happen. And in sports, you don't have that.
Right.
I think that's the most important thing that sports does for us in a way.
I wrote down unpredictability as sort of a root of that, of this idea that like you're right, we can't know, and when paired with that idea of like we are building the story kind of bit by bit, there's a power and a magic in that. There's also community tribalism, like kind of encompasses community, but like almost this is maybe not the right word. Like this is maybe a heavier, a more loaded word than I want to go with, but like voyeurism. Like there's an element of
Oh,
like there is, in most sport there is an audience. You know what I mean? Like it is an observed thing. Like there is not just the person playing the game, there is the competition. I'm also gonna write as we chat, I'm brainstorming words. Like there's the competition element of the people playing the thing, but then there's also this element of like I am invested in the experience of watching. Like it's both the tired joke of like, well, you aren't really on the field, so like you're not really a part of the team, but like also the very real sense of like, yeah, I kind of am, and I can't explain it because I'm just watching it happen, but like I am a part of this experience in a very fundamental way.
yes, this is really interesting because I often think that like something that is made does not become an art until somebody else receives it. It's just a
Sure.
thing you did for a
Yeah,
while,
yeah.
right? So like
100%.
if I write a novel and nobody reads it, not even my mom, I mean, I love you, mom, you're the best. But like if nobody ever reads it, it's not a novel. It's like it was a therapeutic thing that I did to enjoy myself, which I do really enjoy writing. So I'm not being facetious there. So However, I don't know if I agree about whether or not sports is that as well. Like if two people are playing tennis and nobody's watching them, is it still sports? I think
Sure.
maybe it is, but I think that's because there are two people. I think if one person's like hitting a ball against the wall themselves and practicing, it's maybe not sports, right? Like if you're going on a bicycle ride by yourself, even if you're training for the Tour de France, I think that's not sports. I think it needs at least two people. So there is a like communication element to sports.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say to what you were saying is one of the other first things that occurred to me is catharsis.
Catharsis is really good.
Is a really important way that like many people in our society allow themselves to feel things.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I feel like I see it when I go to a baseball game, the people who are there because they love baseball and they happen to feel things along the way. And like, look, it's still catharsis for them. And then the people who are like, I am just here to be mad. Like,
yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And so like I'm just or like if not to be mad, to be like really ferociously victorious in the face of the people who have lost and the surrounding fans of the opposing team who are sad. Like some people, that's why they go to sports, and I'm not shaming them. I'm saying like it's serving an important societal function.
I listen. I've been to Philly sports games. I get it. I understand the vibe. I've seen these things. But like the catharsis of I think that catharsis, I think we're getting at a lot of really interesting things, because I think about that catharsis of of being out on the street at like 11:30 midnight and hearing like a swirl of trolley horns and feeling the energy, like all of the things that we've called out, the tribalism, the myth making, the catharsis. Like the thing I think about, that the memory that most comes to mind, and like the culmination of all of that is I remember watching the Super Bowl in 2017, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I remember watching and I remember we were like, the TV was on a delay. 28. That's what I thought. It was the 2017 season, the 2018 Super Bowl. And I remember like the TV is on a delay. So we're watching the game. There's about like 2 minutes left. And I just hear like a roar, like a wave crash over my apartment of people screaming and looking at my wife and going, oh, fuck, we just won the Super Bowl. Like, and knowing that like there's a delay and that like we were not seeing the moment, but that like the city was realizing it in real time, and like feeling the catharsis of, we have experienced a thing that no one in the city has ever experienced before. And the thing that like, I think every person that I know in the city has a story of, I had a family member that like had been waiting for that moment their whole lives, or like somebody that like never got to see this. And so like this was for them. Like all of that energy is something that I want to like examine and play with, because I think it's incredibly powerful, and there's an incredibly powerful magic there on some level.
I think community is different from tribalism, and I think they should both be on the board. I think they're both really important. And I think it's not just community. I want to throw the word family in there. And I have two different meanings for this. Mm-hmm. I think like I'm not going to name any names, but there are members of my family where like it's truly the only thing that we can actually talk about is sports, right? And so I feel like it is, and I don't have a conversation with either my mom or my dad, my parents are divorced, without us talking about the Phillies. Like it will happen. And simultaneously, because people are often like, oh, Ellen, why do you love baseball? And the answer that I have to give them is like, I don't know. I don't remember not loving baseball. I don't remember not loving the Phillies. The only thing that I have loved for the same duration, i.e. longer than I can remember, is my actual family. And so it's why I, have this unhealthy love of baseball and of the Phillies in particular. Is like, it's a weird thing where I feel like they're my family. These people who like don't know me at all, but I'm still like, feel like when they fail, I feel like my family has failed.
Yes.
And that is the amount of sadness that I experience.
And there is the piece of family that like that the thing about the detail of family that is like relevant or resonant to me is like Jen and I have a tradition that I've started doing anytime I fly somewhere and I'm about to fly home, which is I will wear like my Philly sports gear, either a Philly shirt or an Eagle shirt. I'll wear something to the airport. And without fail, there will be a moment where the airport is being the airport. And like it is the most miserable experience that we have managed to engineer. And like there will be a moment of like abject misery where I'll see someone is having the worst day imaginable, and I'll be at the gate and I'll see them having this day, and they will lock eyes with my shirt, and like wherever we are in the world they will see that shirt, and like you'll see just the slightest like sigh of relief of home. Like that thing on that shirt is home. And getting a Go Birds or a Go Phils at the airport when you're in another state, another time zone, magical. Because at that moment we are in this together, and there's like a family and a community energy that comes from that, of like we're never going to speak again. There is no world where we interact after this, but like we recognize there is a commonality here, and that is a thing that we share in this moment that I think is incredibly powerful.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a lot of things on the board. We've got a lot of concepts on the board. What are some statements that are true about sports that would be fun to change? Examples are: cities have roads, weddings are planned, teachers are paid professionals, food comes from plants or animals, police carry badges, things that are basically largely overwhelmingly true statements. What are some facts about some facts about sports that we can imagine what the world looks like differently if we were to change those sentences?
Well, something that I was thinking about that we hadn't mentioned, I think, because we were very much talking about the fan experience, but that I think is a key part of sports. And I wonder if there's a way to formulate this best. Yeah. But like, sports are played by people who are physically gifted.
Sports are skill based, I think, is even like because you've got something like there's this idea, that idea of like you are inherent, like it is that's that competition element of like this is a thing you are inherently good at.
Yes, I understand that there are things that are like sports that like I don't consider sports, like card games. I'm not trying, but just like it just doesn't. It feels like I totally get people being really interested to watch other people play poker. That's fine. It still doesn't feel like a sport to me somehow. But yes, I get that like that is a skill. It's not like a physical skill.
Yeah.
And that some sports require greater like physical gifts than other ones do. Yeah. I'm not, it's a thing I love about baseball, that it can be a democracy of bodies, right? That there can be a lot of different like sizes and shapes of people who can still play baseball.
One of the uniquely beautiful things about baseball is that exact thing. It is a sport where you see body types that you don't see on a lot of the other pro sports, and for that I treasure it dearly. What else do we want to? I mean, sports have winners and losers isn't quite the like that. There's something there that I'm poking at. I'm trying to find the right statement to really like reimagine there.
But I feel like that's key, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not a sport where like everybody wins.
Right.
Like that's something else.
that becomes a different thing.
Yeah.
You know what it can be? You know what actually saying that, which is like, sports can be mastered, I think, is the sentence that is the evolution of sports. Sports have winners and losers. You can be the best at a sport. Like you can learn, you can, it is, it is difficult to do so, but like you could be the best at a sport. You could physically and mentally and skill wise like learn the sport and learn the game and learn the requirements to a degree where you have mastered it. It is a masterable skill.
Sure. Or like there will always be somebody who is the best.
Yes.
I don't know that that's, I mean, feels like a less excellent sentence, but perhaps slightly more accurate, right? Because
There's
I feel
always
like
someone who is the best.
everybody feels like, oh, I could, Shohei Ohtani is like, yes, but somehow next year I could hit 50 home runs and pitch 200 innings. And it's like,
Right.
that would be insane. But everything could actually technically be better. But there is one person where you're like, yes, but there is one Shohei Ohtani. So yeah, I think that is accurate and I like it being on the board, but I do feel like I'm not sure that it encapsulates the idea that like there must be winners and losers in sports.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be sad. And I think that's like necessary for a lot of the catharsis.
I agree. I something has popped in my head as we're talking about this. That like there's a sentence that's popped into my head. It's adjacent to what we're talking about, but I think like it feels compelling to put on the board as imagining a world where this changes in some way, which is like sports have agreed upon enforceable rules. Like a baseball game like has a set of rules that we all agree on when we start the game. Everybody understands to the best of their ability like the rules in front of them.
Yes.
And like as a statement that is objectively true but also flexible, like there's something there of like what happens if we change that sentence. And I think there's something compelling to just like sports have agreed upon rules. Are there any other statements that like jump out to you as like obvious or like fun things to play around in, fun pools to splash around in when we think about like concepts in sport?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I had sort of posited this, but I don't know whether it is actually true that we feel like somebody needs to watch sports for them to be sports, or if that even feels particularly interesting, right? Like if you take the audience element out of sports, is it sports? I would also say sports fans, but like, I want this to be true, but is it universally true? Sports fans have a particular team.
Sure. I like, yeah. That feels, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like, I think a big thing in this, that in what we're building is like, we're finding the sentences that are true to what we are looking at and that feel like fun to flip. So like, there's something fun about like digging into the idea of team identity and how that could change in the world. Do we have anything else we want to throw in?
Yes. I mean, I don't know if any of these are interesting for future gameplay, but I would say something like athletes are admired, athletes are celebrities, athletes are people that normal people look up to. Feels like a true statement about sports, whether or not that's something to like reverse.
I think that's extremely exciting to reverse or to invert or to fuck with in some way. Like I don't know what it's gonna look like yet, but there's something real juicy in like putting that feels like that's the spirit of the game of like, this is a sentence that if we flip this on its head takes the world in way different directions, and I think that's cool as hell. Okay, we've got a list of statements. Now we're going to imagine new worlds where these things are different. Each of us is going to start one new world and create the initial vision that we explore together. So what that's going to look like is one of us will volunteer to start? Would you like to start to build a world, or would you like me to take the lead?
I can start.
Great. So you're going to pick one statement on our list and describe how it is not the same. Keep it simple. Avoid touching on the other statements. Like, just like, tell me what of these statements, like, what do you want? What do you want to imagine a world? Which of these statements do you want to imagine is changed?
I think the one that feels the most fun to me is sports have agreed upon rules.
Okay. Great.
And I say that partly because I almost don't know how to make it not true.
Yeah, sure.
But the idea of just imagine that like a squad of athletes shows up with another squad of athletes and they're just not quite sure what game they're going to be playing.
Right. I like that.
Feels
That's great.
really fun. Like I would watch that.
I would watch the hell out of that.
If maybe there are like elements of sports that we recognize, right? So it's kind of, but that it might be that these teams will show up to different kinds of fields, right? So like this is a world in which the sports that we have still exist, question mark, like am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Right. So they could be like, all right, so today we've got, the narwhals are playing the Cthulhu's today, and they're going to show up at a soccer pitch, but that's just what the field is going to be. They could end up making it any other kind of game, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it actually like we need to dunk on top of the soccer goals? Or is it like, oh my God, somebody has brought out the croquet set. Like, what are they going to do with that?
Yeah, I like this. I really think this hits. This feels there's such an energy there, and like good. This is good. This is good. This has got energy. This has got legs. Which of these two statements, so now that we've got the sentence that we're changing, which of the two statements on here do you think are still the same? Like, what do you feel in this world as we take this big idea that like athletes don't know the game that they're about to play and that the rules will change on a game by game or even play by play basis? What aspects of sport are the same in that world?
I think sports are played by physically gifted athletes feels important here because it's not about having just like learned a particular skill. So these need to be sort of triathlete type, like physically gifted people. If they know how to play poker really well, it's not going to help them if like actually the thing that they're playing that day is a little bit more like, cricket matched up with rugby or something.
Right.
So that feels important to me.
I think it's a really fascinating possibility here of if like consider what it says about the world if you don't know. Like, there's a fascinating pairing here, which is a world in which the rules are constantly changing and you're never certain what game you're about to play, coupled with the idea that there is someone who is still nonetheless the best at that. Like what that would mean in a world where like a game is this amorphous changing thing. Like the way that you would identify someone as the best at sport changes so much and becomes a really fascinating like picture to look at when you imagine like what it would mean to excel in that environment.
Yes.
It is both a physical thing, but also like there's almost a mental kind of, you mentioned like poker not necessarily helping you, but I do feel like there's a certain kind of like roll with the punches, keep your head on a swivel, play the players as much as you're playing the game kind of mentality where it's like, I don't know what's about to happen, but when something goes wrong, or when I'm served something that I cannot measure up with, like, there is an element of like chicanery that I think becomes really fascinating when we consider that this is a world where sport changes, but it can still be excelled at.
Yes. What you need in this scenario is you need the JT Realmutos of the world, right?
Yes.
Who like played baseball and football and wrestling and also had a 4.0 GPA in high school. You know what I mean? Like, you need somebody who's really smart. And what I love about this, because you need somebody who's going to be able to adjust on the fly, right? To be like, this other team appears to be winning because they've sort of dictated what game we're playing, but like I'm just gonna like bring in the lacrosse sticks and be like, these are involved somehow, so haha. You need somebody to be able to pivot, and that feels like maybe interestingly not a skill that a lot of them, that some of the most skilled athletes might have. And the reason that I say that is because I was once told this life-changing fact, which is that we have a set number of thoughts per minute. And that some people have many, many thoughts per minute. For example, stand-up comedians, right? Like, it's clear that they have many more thoughts per minute than I personally have, because some of them are maybe not funny, but they're like always able to choose out of the 10 thoughts that they just had, like the funny one. And that's the one that they say. Whereas like in that amount of time, I've only had one thought. And that athletes apparently have very few thoughts per minute, which is helpful for them, because then there's not ideally not a ton of thoughts getting in the way of a just kind of like see ball, hit ball approach. But if suddenly you need also to be like a kind of a catcher type, like a kind of a game caller. Yeah. Really interesting.
Yeah. Really, really interesting. Okay, so we've got the world. Now we just bounce back and forth. What the back half of our world building looks like is we each take 2 turns building on this idea. We can change something, pick an unused statement and say how it's not the same in this world. We can say that something is the same, pull in an unused statement, say how it is basically the same, and then add it in, or just pick something that was already said and tell us more or reveal some asset about it. So you reveal something is different, something is the same, or add a detail. For this, what I want to expand on this, because I think there's something really fun. And I think maybe it's partially because like when we are recording this, like trailers for the Running Man are all on my TV, and there's like an energy here of there's a what we're describing is vague, is almost like a sort of Hunger Games Running Man kind of like energy of like the game feels like there's a danger inherent to that. And I like the idea that the rule changes like come from an unknowable which I guess is an expansion, which I guess is just the furthest possible implementation of Jeff is annoyed at many of the rules changes that come to sport season to season from the owners and from the like ruling committees, but like they come from an unknowable, almost algorithmic like entity, right? Like that is just like, and I think it is a little bit the thing that's popped into my head is like almost X-Men Danger Room-esque of like suddenly obstacles have fallen and suddenly you're in an obstacle course. Good luck. And it adds that sense of like the team arrives and there's that anxiety becomes almost a fear of like, I don't know what's about to get dropped in front of me. Like it could be something that's going to give us huge advantage. It could be something that puts us in real danger. And there's a sort of fascinating energy that I think builds upon that.
I love that. I love that so much. And you've given me an idea to take this to a terrible dystopian level.
Go for it.
By saying the Hunger Games, which is that I think, and also I was thinking a little bit about, and this is not making this untrue, but athletes are admired, celebrities looked up to. Somebody from the losing team, when they play this sport, somebody from the losing team like gets relegated to not be able to play sports anymore.
That's really fantastic. Oh, I like that a lot. That's
And
yeah, and it's this and I mean like to be a person who plays sport in that world means that you have like honed yourself to such a specific like mindset and physicality that like the chance that you could lose it on any single game is terrifying.
yes, and that I think in a truly terrible fashion, like the losing team has to the losing team has to vote about who's the person who leaves.
Oh, that's
And I think that's like I was like, is it a crowd vote? But I feel like no, then you'd get a bunch of people who are like opposing fans flooding the votes, like trying to vote off the worst or the best person on the team, right? To be like, like we don't want to see Kyle Schwarber anymore or whatever. Like needs to be that everybody gets together and is like, sorry, Sandy.
Like, this is the person that didn't. This is the person that let us lose, and like they have to like cut someone loose. And when they do that, that person leaves and never comes back to sports is agonizing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's like they can never come back to like whatever this chaos league is that we've created. But I do feel like there's something about being voted off by your own team that is so psychologically damaging that I feel like even if that person was going to like try to play in some other professional sports league, they'd have a really hard time of like, finding a team that would give them a real look.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I hate it so much.
I truly hate it, but like that's the game, and that's the game is that we've created a really fucked up world that I'm kind of obsessed with. And I'm looking at this list and I'm seeing if there's one more thing that I want to add. But also I kind of feel like we've nailed it. I feel like we've got such a good picture of this world of like I think the thing I want to add, and this is not quite we're not pulling sentences here as much as just like fleshing out things that are already on the board of like to me, I think what is captivating, if I'm thinking of, the fiction of this world, if I'm framing this in like where the story goes, in my mind, there's a real thrilling kind of like almost cyberpunk, like fight back energy to, you are a person that has been trained to respond to anything at your physical and mental peak, and due to circumstances that are beyond your control, you have been kicked out of the thing that is your like. To me, it is so captivating to imagine like what happens to that person, and the idea that there is like a world of like either crime or rebellion or resistance or anything that is just like to me like that is such a good fictional hook of this person, like a person has been kicked out. Now the story of like what happened. Now the fight begins because they've been backed into this position. And
their sports career is the thing that is fridged in this particular story.
Yes, that feels extremely fun and exciting.
Yeah, I think I can throw one more thing on here, which is that I think in this chaos league, which is not what it needs to be called, but is at least descriptive so we know what we're talking about. I think bandwagoning is not required. Like it's not necessary for fans, but like it is welcome. Right. Sure. To kind of to just be like, oh, my team keeps losing and they keep voting their guys off. I'm just going to like ditch them and buy new gear and just like root for this other team. And in the kind of like, we don't know what the rules are. That's also not like, ooh, you turncoat. That's just like, yeah, that team was losing. And so you just decided to hitch your wagon to another team.
Yeah, that feels great. I think that's a good addition. Is there anything else about this world that you want to poke at, or do we want to spin up another world?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, I feel like, this gets to a lot of the key things about sports and also made it better and worse.
Yeah. This is great. This game rips. I'm excited to continue building these weird worlds because I'm staring at a particular sentence that I desperately I've been chewing on since you threw it out, that like I'm like I got to know what happens if we invert it in some way. What happens if we change that celebrities, athletes are admired or celebrities or looked up to? The idea of like inverting that, and the idea of like changing that to something where to be an athlete is to do something in secret, like which also
Mm,
says that the other sentence that I like, there is something to be like being an athlete is like a secret. It is a double life. It is something that is like looked away from, or looked past. And there's something immediately captivating to me about like examining the world where that is the case.
yep. Yes. Yeah, I think so. Because I think that the attitude there would be like, you're an adult
Mm-hmm.
and you want to play like a game that doesn't even make you like a more productive member of society.
Oh,
And
fascinating.
it doesn't even increase your mental capacity to fight Alzheimer's in your later years. Like, why would you spend your time to do this? It doesn't make anything.
Yes, that feels good. If I love how fleshed out this world has gotten immediately by flipping this one thing on its head.
Yeah, like suddenly the world has like very different priorities. But I
Right.
think it would because I feel like the importance, our understanding of, I think, the very crucial role that sports
Mm-hmm.
plays in our society for catharsis.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly people would find that not valuable,
Right.
right? Like but like why would you need to run around? And also, why would we care to watch you like run a ball back and forth or kick a ball back and forth? Like, why would that matter to us? Feels like it has other implications
There's
for.
Yeah, there's something I've added the sentence to the world of like sports are still a cathartic experience for players and observers, even if the world, like, because the idea that like the world does not value it, and almost the world like shuns it, or like culturally like it is forbidden in some way. There's something so exciting to me about picturing like we're gonna go play baseball, like being like meeting with a group of players to be like, we're playing baseball, and like having a good baseball game, and people that watch it get swept up into the experience of the baseball game, and like that being this emotional thing that is like hidden and that is experienced in secret is so exciting. And it like, to get fully weird with it, what I experience, or what I visualize when I hear all of that, and I'm putting this on the board as I envision this, is like in a world where that catharsis does not exist, or is not valued, or is left behind. There is almost a like, I'm throwing in like a magic, or an anime power, or like something to the effect of like, to reach that cathartic state is to break reality a little bit. And that is like very exciting, especially like in a picturing a world where like this is something that is happening in secret, has got wheels turning for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I almost have gone the opposite
Go for it.
direction with it, but I feel like both are possible, right?
Mhm.
Which is like sports still actually do offer catharsis and excitement for the people who play it and for the people who witness it also, like, sort of in secret, right? There's like underground baseball games. I mean, actually, you had me at there's underground baseball games.
Underground baseball games is hitting.
but like that there's a reason in overall society where that would be seen to be unnecessary and silly, which in some ways I think is sad, and in other ways actually speaks to like a high level of mental and emotional attunement, right? Like everybody has a lot of therapy in this world. You know, just in order to not feel like sports is the thing, or even if it's like the kind of umbrella society expectation of like, well, but why would we need to do that if we all have therapists, you know, and we all, you know, on Friday nights, everybody goes to like sip and paint, you know, and like talks about their dreams. If that was the case, then like, why would we need to go scream about sports somewhere? Like all of our feelings are very expressed. And in some ways, I love the idea of, and I don't know, maybe we could reject this. Maybe it's not working, but like the idea of emotional and spiritual balance having been taken to such a point that it's actually dystopian because now people just like aren't allowed to just do a thing that they enjoy.
The thing that you said when you were first kind of responding to the idea that sports like is that loving or participating in sports is like, when you were first kind of like imagining the rejection of that, you said a thing that I think pairs really nicely with that and like really ups the idea of underground sports games to 11, which is like, you said something to the effect of like, it does nothing to increase productivity. And like the idea of like an overwhelmingly like corporate world, and like the idea of like emotional regulation, but like also kind of yes, Jeff is thinking about this because of a long day in the office, but like emotional office mentality, right? Like it is, there's a kind of emotional about like, it's the emotional labor of like an overwhelmingly like corporatized, you know, capitalist nightmare existence of the world is the office and everyone is involved. Like everyone is the office 24/7. It's a little bit, it's almost a little like Severance. It's a little bit like, this is a world where, you know, this is capitalism to the nth degree, and you are existing in a state where like there is regulation, but there is also suffocation, and like this practice of like, yeah, and then some of us grab baseball bats and we go to a parking garage and we fucking we nail dingers and we get excited like that. There's something, and I've added the sentence of sports fans have a particular team, because the idea of that almost as an anti-corporate rebellion of like, I got my team t-shirt under my dress shirt, and under my suit and tie I've got my team colors on. The idea that it's like it's a flag of rebellion is very sick to me.
Yeah, I think this one is more like the movie that I want to watch and or write, where it's a little bit more of like a 1984 world.
Yeah.
And all frivolity is just seen as useless. Like, yeah, you're not. If it's a world in which nobody is looked up to for playing sports, if it is a world in which nobody can make money to play sports,
yeah,
then it is a world in which like, that's just like, why would you spend your time to do that? And again, yeah, that makes it feel more like the movie I would want to watch, because then obviously whereas I feel like the real idea of like, we don't need this catharsis anymore as a society is like harder to figure out what's the version of that thing. Because I mean, I do slightly wonder what is the catharsis for people in this highly corporate world? Like, is it just that they're given parties like they have in Severance, where they're given a lot of melon, and there's a marching band or something like that, but nobody actually gets to do anything? Because I don't see if it's like about productivity. I don't see it being a world where it's suddenly like, yes, but we find art to be a perfectly acceptable use of your time either, because it's like, but who wants to look at this painting that you made, Janice? Right? Like, would be the same attitude of the world. Not like I'm trying to get it into art, but yeah, I guess I am trying to be like, how does the world expect people to exercise who they are if they're not allowed to have frivolous things that they do?
You have unlocked a hot take that I have about a lot. And like, I think that like under the surface, like I think I have an answer to that that's rooted in a hot take that I have about a lot of media, and specifically a hot take I have about a movie that I dearly love and that like I love a lot and that I think is a fantastic film. But the problem that I have with it, I have a huge problem with the movie Mad Max Fury Road. I think it's a great movie. I think it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I have a huge problem with all of the Mad Max movies. And that is, all of them posit this world in which survival is such a critical thing that like, the thing that I've always noticed about the Mad Max movies, Fury Road most noticeably, because they spend the entire time driving in a car, is that nobody plays I Spy. Like, and that's a silly example, but I think like the broader thing is like, there is no, like, in all of the driving sequences in all of the Mad Max films, you never get a sense that there are car games.
Yeah.
You never get a sense that like it is this world, and like it is fundamentally positing that survival has become such a priority that like, but like I've driven in very important, very stressful car rides and still bullshitted. Like I've still like talked about stuff that I was seeing on the road, or like, played punch buggy or things like that. And I think like the thing maybe I want to like lean into is like make that explicit, where like in this pursuit, taking sport here as the ultimate example of which is like that catharsis and that frivolity was simply overlooked because our priority is not that. Our priority is the productivity. Our priority is success, and our priority is money and earnings. And at a certain point, sport or frivolity or fun or like emotional catharsis happens almost naturally or instantaneously or irrepressibly in the form of these underground baseball games, because that is simply a thing that like, and it is, and you can try and lock it down. You can try and refuse it. You can try to turn it away, but there is an energy of it that is ultimate, that will rear its head and does rear its head in this world, in the form of like rebel baseball games, which is which is a phrase that I love so much that I'm finding excuses to say it a lot. I think there's something kind of incredible in the sense of like, this is like it's the world did not value this, so we had to invent it ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think the thing, maybe what I'm heading to in contradiction to what I had sort of floated earlier, is I think like this is also a world in which artists are not valued,
Yes.
looked up to, right? Like that it's not like, oh, sports is lowbrow, but like we do spend our everybody spends their Fridays like painting and reading the works of David Foster Wallace. I love you, David Foster Wallace. So instead it's kind of, and this feels like something that I've thought about a lot of like, if I lived in a world where just like it wasn't a thing where actors ever got paid for their work or like writers ever got paid for their work, those are still two things that I would do because they are like necessary for me to want to be alive. And that I think maybe that's also part of this world. Like the only thing that people are supposed to do when they're not at home is they can like listen to self-help podcasts.
Yeah.
I actually think like therapy is a part of this world, right? Like, and that's part of the thought. It's like, you don't need to do these other things. Like you have a therapist, but it's kind of like, but we don't like therapy. You don't get to talk about anything that you did where you like, you made something or like you played a game or you had fun. So it's kind of like, what is there even to express? Like you're allowed to like go home and read nonfiction books to learn more things. You know, like that's what people do for fun. Or like, you know, watch documentaries. You can watch documentaries that people make not for profit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's an incredible energy to like, and there's an incredible energy to like that sort of like that chaotic expression of that art and sport and catharsis of being like, this is such a world where everything kind of feeds back into work, right? Like therapy. Hearing you talk about like the therapy, like my brain immediately went to like, yeah, you have a therapist, but really it's basically an HR rep. Like it's basically like you're talking about like how can you be more effective in your interpersonal reactions to really like to really advance the company's goals. Like and this idea that like all of these like messy irrepressible things like are going to happen and are going to happen in ways that like directly threaten this like established monolithic order of things.
Yes, but the idea is like, well, but you do not need to have those activities because we provide you with a therapist.
Yes. And
who may or may not be reporting back to management about what you happen to say. You know?
Right. And so naturally, like there is, you know, parking garage baseball league turns into graffiti on the walls, turns into underground punk concerts, and like it becomes this thing of like catharsis and expression as a form of rebellion, which is, as I'm saying it out loud, the most Jeff is on his bullshit thing that I've ever created. So thank you for joining me on this journey.
No. Like I was laughing because I was like, I want to write this movie. Do you want to write this movie with me?
I'm on board. Like we've hit it.
Yeah. Because okay, so Noah Gattel, I just want to plug his book briefly. Wrote this. I think it's called Baseball the Book, but wrote this book. I have a podcast grading baseball movies on the 20 to 80 scouting scale used for baseball prospects, and so when I got to read his book, having seen at this point so many baseball movies in my life, I was like, oh, this is really true. And his central premise is the idea that a baseball movie always reflects the state of America at the time that it was made.
Sure.
And I also want to plug for your listeners, even if you do not like baseball at all, watch the indie film EePhus, EePhus.
Oh, I've had that on my list for months. They showed it at a theater, and it was a one day that we couldn't make it. I've had it on my list it's been floating in my brain pan for months.
It's really good, even for people who don't like baseball. It is a beautiful movie. I don't want to like overly hype it because then I feel like expectation always is such that then people will not enjoy it because it will be overly hyped. But like, just watch it is a thing that I have to say. Just like support indie film, just go out, rent it. Anyway, when I watched this film, I was like, yes, this is 100% the state of America in 2024 when the film was made. And I feel like you and I are going to write the baseball movie that is like the America that we're heading into.
Yeah, this hits. God, I really could. I really could play this game for another 4 hours of just grabbing statements and going like, what would baseball look like if? But I think that we'll leave it there and we'll call it game. And I'll say thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. This was incredible.
Oh my gosh, such a pleasure. I don't know how we thought we were going to pick something other than sports. Oh, and also I want to give you this particular airport moment.
I'm glad. I'm
wearing a Phillies shirt. And
I'm
that's
so
just
glad.
like, I didn't do it on purpose. It's just like a statistical likelihood that I'm wearing a Phillies shirt.
You know, it's listen, it is it's never off the table. We are recording this in the postseason. I was going to say, I'll say it on mic. I would like to formally apologize. I believe that I cursed the team because when we first started planning this episode, I said, "Hey, we'll be recording this at a time that maybe the Phils will do great," and they did not do great. And I think that's on me more than anything.
It's not on you. Don't take it on yourself, Jeff.
I appreciate that. That means a great deal. Well, this was incredible. Let me ask you this. What was your favorite moment from play?
Oh gosh. So many. I think it was probably, I don't know, your description of like the underground baseball games, like just how clear that was to me, and everything that sort of came out of that. I think for me, when I was like rejected my other idea and was like, no, it's not that idea, it's this idea, felt related to that. But I feel like all of that was tied to you just having that like really strong image come out at you from Spiritus Mundi.
I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for that. I'm glad that it came. I'm glad that it brought out the experience, because like getting to explore that space and like landing in that world was so satisfying. And yeah, I'm glad that we landed on sports as the topic, because I think like that what we've built here is so special to me that I'm really glad that we got to share this. So thank you again for this. This was wonderful. Real quick before we wrap up, where can people find your work?
Oh my goodness, there's too many social medias.
That's true.
I do have a website, which is my name, ellenadair.com. I'm on Instagram at ellenadairg, just like the letter G. Ellen Adair was already taken. I'm on Blue Sky at Ellen Adair. I am there more often than I am on Twitter, which I staunchly continue to refer to as Twitter, where I am Ellen_Adair. And I'm also on TikTok, Ellen Adair. Yeah, those
Fantastic.
are the places.
Thank you so much for this. Too many places, honestly. And also, I think I am Stormer Jeff on Instagram, because Jeff Stormer was taken, and it is the forever burning anger in my heart that I didn't get my name in one of the places.
I feel your pain, my friend. But thank you so much for this. This was an absolute ball. Fully intended.
This was magnificent. I am overjoyed. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, Bass Me. And thanks again to Ellen for coming on to the show. That game was remarkable. I had such fun playing it. It really was wonderful to listen to. It really captures the magic of the show and the magic of the experience to sit down and get deep in the weeds about a thing that we're both passionate about. This was an incredibly magical experience, and I'm so grateful for it. Be sure to check the show notes for links to all of Ellen's projects. Be sure to pick up your own copy of In This World at lamemage.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, there is one thing I would love for you to do. If you have a dream guest for the show, somebody, a celebrity, a podcaster, a musician, a professional wrestler, whatever. If you have somebody that you're like, man, I would love to hear them play a weird tabletop game and have an interview and a conversation and have this weird experience, I want you to go tell them about the show. Send them a tweet, a skeet, an email, a Tumblr post, Instagram comment, whatever, and just say, hey, here's a great show. Check it out. I think you'd like it. I'd love to hear you as a guest. Legitimately, those comments have opened doors and led to episodes in the past. So, like, if you enjoyed this episode and there's someone that you're like, man, I'd love to hear them on the show someday, give them a shout on social media and tag us, and we'll see what happens. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lies by Megaran, featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about press coverage, coming on the show as a guest, or about advertising rates, you can email me at partyofonepodcast.com. Or if you have a recipe for a baked good, I got sent some of those recently and it really brightened my day, so that would be amazing. And, unless I'm mistaken, that's all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.